Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Huge Pop from the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. I am blessed tonight to have the man from Waco. He debuted in 2008. He is the 325 of Punch You in the Damn Mouth, 15-plus year pro, the two-time Trinity River Heritage Champion. He's part of the 360 Pro Wrestling promotion and the Matt War Pro Wrestling. He is the SuperTex Brent McKenzie. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great, Scott. Thanks for having me on tonight.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming on. I also forgot to say he's been part of the Sons of Texas, the stable Sons of Texas, and Down to Fight.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
You.
I'm just going to start out with the basic first couple questions that probably everybody asks you. So how did you first get started as a fan of wrestling?
I was probably 12 or 13, I guess, and that's when the NWO was real hot. And I remember I wasn't watching it regularly, even if at all. I'd seen it, I'd seen wrestling growing up, but was never a real big fan of it. And my friend Scotty, who actually became a referee and a professional wrestler, he got started around the same time I did. His name was Mike Fire. In the wrestling world, he invited me over to his place for a Nitro party, and it was the night that Goldberg defeated Hulk Hogan for the world title in Atlanta. And after that, man, it was every Monday night, and then Mondays became Friday nights or Thursday nights or whatever night SmackDown was on, and I've just been a fan of it ever since. And I was I was really kind of enamored by the athleticism, the fact that these guys could go out there and do all this crazy stuff night in and night out, and I wanted to learn how they did that. And it wasn't so much the stories or the angles that got me. It was the fact that they were out there doing all this crazy stuff and not killing themselves.
Okay. So you mentioned NWO. So did you have any favorite factions? Do you have any factions you like, even current?
Originally the NWO, and then there was the NWO Wolfpack. So that whole thing, I was a big fan of both stables, but going back and then kind of like brushing up on the history of wrestling, the Four Horsemen, the original Four Horsemen, man, those guys could work their asses off and really make you feel something. So I don't watch a whole lot of I'm not really into the modern stuff, but I know the Judgment Day is doing some really cool stuff, and they've gotten over with their current lineup, and they're fun to watch. So, but that's really about it, man. It was NWO and the Horsemen. Those are.
So would you say that those guys would rank up to your favorite wrestlers like Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan?
Those weren't my favorites, honestly, but I did appreciate the work that they did. But my favorite wrestler growing up was Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Something about him, man. And I've gotten tons of comparisons to Bam Bam.
Kind of, yeah, I see it.
And so, I've got him on my wall there. There's a 8x10 of him.
There you go.
Signed by him. But he was my favorite. And then, all the big guys that could move well and that were really athletic. Those are who I gravitated to.
All right. So I have to ask a TikTok question. It's funny, but it's just necessary because it's always. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest WCW champion ever?
The greatest WCW champion.
Don't overthink it.
It's got to be Flair. I mean, even though it's there was NWA before it was WCW, it all runs into the same lineage. It's Flair, without a doubt.
The joke is it's David Arquette.
Well, Okay. No, you know what? I've got a ton of respect for David Arquette. It was a position he was put in that he didn't want to be in,
Oh,
and they went with it anyway. And then some 25 years later, he's out there, or 20 years later, he's out there actually putting the work in and wrestling on the indies and doing a pretty good job. So I've got all the respect in the world for David Arquette.
that I did not know. I did not know he's out in the Indies. That's interesting.
He was a couple years back. He did a death match with Nick Gage at GCW, and then he was doing some championship wrestling from Hollywood with David Marquez. But yeah, he got in pretty good shape and started taking it real seriously. And if there's a documentary that he did, I think it was "You Can't Kill David Arquette" or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's on Amazon now or something. But kind of documents what he went through trying to actually show respect to the wrestling business and kind of prove himself. So it was pretty cool thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're growing up, watching TV, watching the wrestling, and so what happened in the moment that you said, man, that's what I'm going to do?
So it took a few years for me to really decide I wanted to do it, but there was an independent wrestling show that came to Temple, Texas, and ran at I believe it's the Mabron Center in Temple. Mm-hmm. And gentleman Chris Adams was on the show. This was not too long before he was killed. Chris Adams. There's Action Jackson, who's actually still active. He's up here in the North Texas area. Been on several shows with him, but that was the moment I knew I wanted to be a wrestler. It was that particular show, and it was the first time I'd ever seen wrestling live. And then at that point, I was really hooked. So, and then it took a little while to get to it, but yeah, that was the moment.
So an independent show.
Yeah.
So that leads me to the question that I was putting me later on. So if you had to tell a fan the distinct difference between an independent wrestling show and a mainstream like the WWE, AEWs, what would you say the main separation is?
How intimate a independent wrestling show is, how close to the action you are, how accessible a lot of the talent is. It's more accessible in the indies, so you can really make a connection with the talent and the fans. So you get I think way more bang for your buck on the independents because there's a lot more interaction. So that's and if you come to a show, we'll make you a fan.
Yeah, I would say that because I went to here in Panama City. I went to XIW, Extreme Impact Wrestling, and that's where I met Damian Wayne and all those guys. And if you weren't a fan before you got there, you were one when you left because you wanted to come back to the next show. And they made that happen with, I mean, you name it. It was personal. I got a chair right behind me that's signed by all the guys from XIW. There's a big dent that got hit. I think it went over Jackson Slade's head. And the promoter, Adrian Whisper, he gave it to me and he said, and I brought my foster kids and it was cool.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Can
you describe your training and the challenge you faced when training to become a professional wrestler?
So, I was told about a school in the Central Texas area by a friend of mine, and he knew someone who was working out there and told me to give him a call. So I did. Okay. And I went out, and it was about 50 miles from where I lived. And I get there, and it's what looks like a homemade ring inside of a horse corral. And I'm not even exaggerating. And I get there, and nothing seemed on the up and up, right? But I met a few of the guys that I would eventually get started with there. Turns out this guy was screwing people over for money and lying, and he had a whole big backstory about how he was the actual Patriot from WWF, and he would actually go around and show people a Polaroid of the Patriot. But I'm sitting there going, "You don't look like Del Wilkes." So at all, so I don't know why he thought that would attract people to the school or whatever, but there was a big falling out, and my buddy Ryan Genesis, who is a former tag team or world tag team champion with the NWA, him and Scott Summers, they were kings of the underground. he decided that he was going to buy himself a ring, and he had made some connections with some folks down in San Antonio, and he sent me a message and said, "Hey man, we really want you to come out here and start working out with us here." And so we started training in his dad's shop, big metal shop that he set the ring in, and we were out there 4 or 5 days a week, 3 or 4 hours at a time, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth a little bit on the training. And that training facility and everything became the promotion that was New School Federation, which is what became 360 Pro.
Okay. So was it as hard as it looks? I mean, I hear people say, man,
yeah.
you know, if you make it through, you know you can go.
Absolutely. There was nothing easy about it. And we were more or less at the time kind of like teaching each other what we were doing. And then finally we started bringing people in who could teach us some more. So there were folks like Keith Lee, Charlie Haas, Lance Hoyt. We made connections with all these folks, and they would come in and they would help us out. And we got hooked up with a company down in San Antonio, and River City Wrestling. That's where we kind of where we met Hernandez and a few other people.
All right.
Which we'll get to, I'm sure.
Yes, we will. Absolutely.
So, then we started getting booked a little bit more, and then we were running our own shows, and we were for the first time ever running. Like we did pretty well. And then we started booking more outside talent, and those outside talent would come in and help us out, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And then we eventually were running twice a month.
Okay. Now, if you had to say, if you had 10 people show up for training, what's the percentage that actually made it, in your opinion?
About 20%.
Wow, so it's that tough.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. We had several people come in and thought that they were going to do it, and we didn't see them again.
Okay. So what is it like busting your ass daily to be able to make it in this up the ladder in the circuit on the independent circuit?
A lot of heartbreak, a lot of frustration. It can take a long time to get to where you want to get to, and I don't believe anybody who's on the independent level is truly at where they want to be. So it's a never ending grind.
Gotcha. Did you have any mentors who helped you along the way?
Oh, absolutely. Ryan Genesis. He's no longer wrestling now, but he became a really close friend. And then there was Charlie Haas. I know who you had on the show just a couple weeks ago, I think. And James Beard.
Okay.
Legendary referee. He's one of my really good friends now, and I can turn to him for advice whenever, and he's always there with wisdom.
Okay.
Even though I like to give him a lot of hell, but he's definitely one of the ones that I can turn to if I have anything that I need advice on.
Awesome. So, is there any story behind SuperTex? How that name? Okay.
Well, so back in 2016, I said we'd get into it, and here we are. This is going to get into it. I was booked on a show in the Houston area in Cypress, Texas for TASW. It's Texas All-Star Wrestling. They're one of the longest running independent promotions in Texas. I was booked for the original match or show there, and then I noticed on their upcoming card, I saw that I was going to be booked with Hernandez. Well, he and I had quite a bit of heat. He was not a good person. Treated people really poorly. Used his influence to get people to do what he wanted, and he would hold people down and just treat people really badly. And I told the promoter, I go, "Hey man," I go, "he and I don't get along, but if he's going to be here, I don't want anything to go down, so I'm not going to initiate anything. I'm here to work, so I will let whatever bad blood we've got there, let it go."
Okay.
And So that show comes around. I get there and I see that he's there. I pay him no mind. I go and set my merchandise out at the table in the arena area. Come back to the locker room, which was it was a banquet hall. We were in a VFW. Come back into the locker room. I'm getting my stuff out, and I see him approaching me, this is Hernandez. So Hernandez is approaching me. I can't make out what he's saying, and as he's getting closer, I hear him say, "Oh, you're talking all that shit, fat boy." And I go, "All right, Sean, cool, whatever." And I put my hand out, shake his hand. I was there to work. I wasn't there to deal with him. Well, he goes, "Fuck your handshake, fat boy."
Oh,
And
shit.
so, yeah, and I go, "Okay," just like this. And as I'm like this, he proceeds to kick me in the face while I'm sitting down. And he didn't kick me hard enough. So I came up and I just started peppering him because I just saw red. So I don't know how many times I hit him. We eventually wound up like against the table, and I had him in a headlock, and here comes the whole locker room to break it up. Well, after that all goes down, and towards the end of the night, the word's gotten out on the internet at this point. And someone made the suggestion. They said, "Well, he calls himself Supermex. You should call yourself Supermex. You whipped his ass." And I was like, "That's a fantastic idea." So from then on, I've been SuperTex Brent McKenzie. So that's the story of my name. Before that, I was going by Killer McKenzie. And before that was a gimmick I don't like to talk about a whole lot. I was a hillbilly gimmick, Bubba Dumplings. I hated it. And that was a gimmick that was given to me by Hernandez. I think it's just I don't know, like a rib on me, I guess. But I hated the gimmick. And
so
I do everything to get out of that gimmick.
So he just didn't like you. You just didn't like him.
Man, I don't know what it was. He's just. They all knew I didn't want to do this gimmick.
Okay.
And I finally told him, I think, "Hey, I'm not going to do this anymore. I want to try to figure this out on my own and do what I would like." And he proceeded to just give me the riot act at a show in Corpus Christi. And he dressed me down and called me a fat piece of shit who couldn't work. And he said, if this was in 2008, 2009.
Right.
And he calls me a fat piece of shit who couldn't work. I'll never amount to anything. If this was 5 years earlier, he'd mop the floor with my ass, blah, blah, blah. And I had witnesses for all this. Everyone saw it. And so the plan was, he's like, "Fine, if you don't want to do it, we're going to wrap it up at RCW and you just won't work there again." I'm like, "Fine, we'll wrap this gimmick up." They were doing a body slam challenge deal.
Right.
If someone body slammed me, they'd get $400. I wasn't seeing any of the proceeds to this. They were selling raffle tickets for it.
Right.
I saw no money. And so we did. I went to RCW the next day from Corpus. I got body slammed by Lance Hoyt. And that was the end of Bubba Dumplings at RCW. And I took a little bit of time off, and I decided, man, let me try to make this gimmick work. And we started doing it at my home promotion at NSF.
Okay.
But the goal was to eventually break free of that gimmick there, and
Gotcha.
Which we did. So, but yeah, that.
So we're
he didn't
talking.
Like me, I didn't like him. So
we're talking about the LAX Hernandez that we see up in. Okay. Hey.
Yeah.
Do you ever expect to see him on the Indies?
There have been times where promoters have tried to book that match. I typically tell them, I go, one of two things is going to happen. I go, someone's leaving in ambulance and someone's leaving in handcuffs, and I'll be damned if I'm going in an ambulance. So,
wow.
No, I don't have any intention of ever seeing him, and at least not on purpose.
Wow. So how do you prepare physically and mentally for a wrestling match and stuff like that?
Man, I used to train all the time. Stopped doing that so much just because my body's in piss poor shape as far as pain goes. But I don't know. I used to get really nervous before matches. Now I don't. This last match I had though, this cage match was the first time in a cage, and I had quite a bit of nerves going into it. I like to take some time alone before the shows and just kind
Okay.
of reflect on what I intend to do out there that night and what the overall objective is for the show.
Okay.
But there's a lot of just milling around in my own head
All right.
before a show. So it's not really a preparation, like a physical preparation or anything like that. I'm just trying to get in the right mindset.
Gotcha. So we talked about the happenings in the locker room and behind curtains and stuff, and obviously not Hernandez in this aspect, but how important is it to listen to the vets and take their advice? And you're a vet. How is important is up and coming people to listen to you?
It's still weird for me when people come up to me for advice. I still don't know how to handle that, but I do like to give advice. I love to teach. I love to tell people, hey man, maybe if you did this a little differently, it might work a little bit better for you. So I welcome it. I'm still weirded out by it a little bit, but you can learn something from everyone. You can learn what not to do and what to do. There's several ways to skin a cat. So I would implore the younger wrestlers, listen to the old guys a little bit. We've been around the block a few times. We know what we're talking about most of the time. So
right.
But I mean, you can pick and choose from whoever you listen to.
Okay.
So, but I wish more did. That's for sure.
What are some of your favorite wrestling moments or matches from your career?
Oh man. Winning my first title at NSF. It was the Central Texas Championship. I actually wrestled ACH that night. And man, what a talented guy. Man, I wish he was still doing it, because he was just limitless on his talent. But I defeated him for the New School Federation Central Texas Championship. And then taking over 360 with Aaron. That was we took it over from Ryan Genesis. Ryan was having some personal issues, and we had a show coming up, and I guess Ryan had intentions of canceling it, but didn't tell anyone. And we were like, hey man, the show must go on. So we pulled together what resources we could, and we did the show, and then 360 was ours from there on. There's that moment. And then running at the Expo Center in Bell County, we did a couple of shows there, and they were huge turnouts. I think we outdrew TNA and Impact, TNA Impact, whatever they were called at the time. We outdrew them in the same building. So those moments, and then this feud I've had here recently, this past year with Damo McCullough.
Okay.
Those have been moments that really stand out to me, that I cherish.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned Aaron Presley. I want to say thank you, Aaron Presley, 360 Pro Wrestling. Thank you, SuperTex, for allowing me to dive into 360 Pro. I look forward to the future that we have with each other, and it's gonna be a good journey. So, which wrestlers do you look up to most?
Oh man, which ones do I look up to most? Man, that's a good question, because people that I know that I look up to,
indie guys.
Yeah, there are a select few. Lance Hoyt would be one. Charlie Haas, and these are all guys that kind of had a hand in me coming up.
Yeah.
Man, I look up to Aaron.
Yeah.
I know he's not a wrestler per se, but he's gotten in the ring and he's done some stuff. I look up to him and really admire his drive and dedication to making 360 a relevant program in Texas.
Okay.
And man, James Beard, those are the same answers I'm going to give you if you ask me about who inspires me or
Nah.
who I look to, man. Those are the guys.
We talked about Damian Wayne. What kind of guy do you see him as? He's a vet? He's a vet just like you.
He's a vet, and he's an old school guy. No BS. I really wish that he and I could have faced off with one another. That's one of those matches that got away because now he's hung up the boots, and I'm hoping that that's temporary and he finally comes back, and then maybe he and I can have that match. But he is a guy that I look up to as well.
I can tell you I can tell you about that on Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast a week ago.
Oh yeah,
I had the Monster Cahagas on here, Tokyo Monster Cahagas.
I know Cahagas,
and Damian made a statement that he would love a chance to go against Cahagas. So I called out.
Let's make it a three-way.
There you go. I called out Adrian Whisper of XIW in Panama City Beach. And I said, man, let's make this happen. The very next day, Adrian Whisper said, I'll call him up. Let's do this.
Heck yeah.
So I'm just saying, I think he retired, but I think he has the itch.
Oh, absolutely. You'd never lose it because I thought I was going to hang him up at one point, and I did for a while, and it never goes away. It never goes away. You're always thinking, or you're stupid and you go to wrestling shows,
right?
And it just makes that itch even bigger. And that's
right.
That's the boat I found myself in, and here I am. I'm wrestling again, and
there you go.
Thought I was done, but can't stay away.
Man, I love Damian Wayne and his wife. They're such a joy when they come to the show, and it's just he's strictly business, but he's also you can tell he loves the sport.
Oh yes, I appreciate guys like Damian Wayne because they hold true to the old school way of doing things.
Right, exactly.
No BS, just straightforward. I love that about Damian Wayne.
Absolutely. So 15 plus years ago, you started this journey in wrestling.
Yeah.
You walked through that rope, through the curtains that one the first time, and man, that your blood was pumping and it was nerve wracking. How is it the same way now as it was back then?
Yes and no. I mean, it was. I think independent wrestling has gotten much more popular in those 15 years. The nerves were really heavy on that first match for sure. We didn't know what we were doing. Neither one of us. We had no clue. But the nerves don't creep in like they used to. I've got a pretty good idea of what I want to do when I go in there and how to command a crowd. I had no clue about doing any of that 15 years ago. But yeah, I mean, it is the same and it isn't. I think a lot of people are smarter to the wrestling business now, even in the 15 years.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the same and it isn't.
So you still get pumped up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still get pumped, but I don't know if it's nerves eating at me like they were.
Gotcha. So the next thing I'm going to ask you about is funny moments. Are there any good road trip car ride stories?
Can I get back to you? I got to run to the restroom real quick.
Yes.
Be right back.
No problem. So, guys, we are Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Gina, thank you for joining the show. Whoever the second person is in the chat, please write something in the chat so I can make sure I say hi to you guys. I got 3 people out there. Make sure you hit the subscribe buttons to Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Just look up Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Thank you guys for your support. We're talking to Brent McKenzie, SuperTex. He was just talking about, hey, Aaron, how you doing? He was just talking about Damian Wayne and great story about his interaction with Hernandez of LAX. Come back. If you missed that, come back and watch that part of it. Here he is again. We're gonna talk about some funny car ride story. But there's got to be one. There's got to be one.
There are a few. One in particular comes to mind. I'm sorry about that. I drank a lot of water before this started.
All right.
I was out with some guys out on kind of out west. We did a kind of a loop of shows in Albuquerque, Salt Lake, Arizona, or Phoenix. So just a western loop, basically.
Okay.
And we decided we were going to go check out California. None of us had been.
Okay.
And my buddy Jose lived in San Diego at the time, and he was like, "Yeah, y'all can come over to my apartment." He was in the Navy. So he said, "Y'all can come by the apartment and crash there or whatever." And we headed out. Took a little 5-hour drive from Phoenix to San Diego. We get to San Diego. My buddy Jose had been called back to the ship. Was not answering his phone. So we kind of walked up and down the beach a little bit. Ended up sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. 3 very large gentlemen inside of a Mazda 3. So that's a very small car. And decided we were going to go ahead and head on back to Phoenix. We had a show coming up, I think, the next night. And as you drive from Phoenix to San Diego, there are Border Patrol checkpoints. Everything's fine going into California, coming back. We get to Yuma, Arizona, and the dogs, the drug sniffing dogs that the Border Patrol has, keyed on our car. And I'm going, what in the world? What's going on? Because there was no weed in the car or any drugs or anything that I knew of anyway. So the Border Patrol officer says, "Gentlemen, I'm going to need you to go ahead and pull under this pavilion over here." And I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to go to jail. We're going to jail in Phoenix. They're going to get us for transporting something over the border. And I'm going to not name any names. I'm looking at the guy whose girlfriend's car we're driving, who is known for smoking a lot of marijuana. I look at him and I go, "I swear to God, you SOB, you brought something back from California. Now we're going to go to jail. Oh, I hate you right now." So I pull in and officer says, "Gentlemen, I'm going to need you to get out of your car, pull all your stuff out of the trunk, and we're going to search the vehicle. And while we do that, you need to go sit over there." So we go sit down, and I'm sitting next to the other wrestler, and he looks at me and he goes, "I knew we shouldn't have trusted him. We're going to go to jail, and this sucks so bad. And I shouldn't have come on this trip." And I'm going, yeah, I know. Oh, my God. Well, they call the first wrestler over to the car, and they're speaking to him. They're probably 30, 40 yards away from us, so we can't hear what they're saying. And he talks to the officer, and he's kind of motioning towards us, and then he walks back to us. And he says, "They said, grab all our stuff, put it back in the car, get in the car, we're free to go." And I go, "Okay, what happened?" He goes, "I'll tell you when we get in the car." So we put all our stuff back in the trunk. We load up and pull on out of there. We're getting back on I-10. And I go, "Well, what happened?" He goes, "They found marijuana in the car." And I go, "What? Are you serious?" He goes, "I didn't know it was in there. If I'd known it was in there, I would have already smoked it." And I go, "You make a really good point." So he goes, "They found a roach." And I go, "Oh my God, are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I did. He didn't want to do the paperwork for it, so he was just going to let us go." He said, "Throw it out when we get down the road." And I was like, "Well, throw it out." He was like, "I'm not throwing it out." And he opens the glove box again. He finds like 6 more. So he makes himself a whole blunt, lights it up as we're driving back to Phoenix. And I was just like, "You've got to be kidding me." So that was one moment that really stands out. That was a funny story about how we almost went to jail in Arizona. So we got really lucky.
Awesome.
They didn't find the rest of the stuff.
Right. So Razor Foster says, "Awesome. Wow. Border Patrol is something else." So all these people in chat, hey, if you guys want to check out more Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast, hit the follow button. Go to the YouTube channel. I'm at 301 subscribers. I want to get up to 500. So spread the word. Thank you.
What's up, Razor? Razor is one of the wrestlers for 360.
Awesome.
Just most recently tag team champions with Nike Vincent, and
hopefully one day they can be on the show.
Absolutely. They've gone their separate ways. They had a little bit of a falling out, but Really, really talented guys, man. They're
Awesome.
good kids.
Awesome. So, what is the most challenging aspect of being a professional wrestler?
Oh man, finding the physical pain is
Okay.
can be challenging, but I think finding someone who shares your vision and can make your vision work, and
Okay.
then just finding someone who's like minded,
Okay.
who wants the same things out of wrestling.
Yeah.
I've really found that with Aaron and with Matt War Pro with Jason. So
Yeah.
that's been a blessing there. But just finding someone who's on the same page with you, I
Okay.
think it's the most challenging part.
Right.
Who's just not in it for themselves.
Okay. Um, if you have to give any advice to an up and coming kid or young female male into wrestling, getting into wrestling, what would that one piece of advice be?
Um, used to the old adage was, mouth closed, ears open.
Yeah.
Um, that still applies somewhat, but the mouth closed thing, don't ask questions.
Okay.
That's the only way you're going to learn.
Okay.
Ask questions. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody. But learn the wheres, the whys, and the hows.
Okay.
Don't just learn to go out there. Learn to do all the moves and stuff, but really learn why you're doing them
Okay.
and where you should do them.
Gotcha.
That's the most important. Learn how to tell that story.
Okay. Okay. So I have foster kids, so it's that part of the show where I ask these questions. If you watch the show, you've heard them, probably most of them. The kids want to know, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, Sling Blade.
What's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show, oh man, Breaking Bad.
Okay. Favorite food?
I really like pizza, but I'm a bigger fan of a nice thick steak.
Okay. So if you like pizza, the next question fits right to that. Does pineapple belong in pizza?
Listen, man. I'm gonna get some heat with this. Yes, it belongs on pizza. If your palate is not mature enough to understand the idea of sweet and savory, you can't formulate an opinion on what should go on pizza. Pineapple goes on pizza.
Awesome sauce, man. Video games, you play those?
I do sometimes.
You have a favorite one?
Recently would be the Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
The game was amazing. I really enjoyed it. But I haven't played a whole lot here lately.
Okay.
The Spider-Man games have been fun.
Okay.
And then I don't play any of the wrestling games or anything like that. I kind of got sick of the same old on those. It's kind of like Madden that never changes.
Aaron Presley says Super Mario.
I love some Super Mario. I do love some Super Mario, but I don't know if it's my favorite, but I do have a little Super Mario figure that stays on my desk here at work. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm at my job.
Okay.
Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, takes the cake on video games.
You have a favorite cartoon?
Ooh, favorite cartoon. Growing up, it was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe,
Okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Batman the Animated Series.
Okay.
Those were my favorite cartoons.
Okay. Do you acknowledge the tribal chief? All right. So those are those questions from the kiddos. He does acknowledge the tribal chief. Okay. I love this question. I really didn't think of this question until I had the opportunity to interview Monster Cahagas. And his insight on this question was like, oh my God. How important is brotherhood in the business of professional wrestling?
It's very important. we're out there giving each other our bodies, right? So there has to be a level of trust and respect for one another. Um, there are bad apples in every bunch, but overall, uh, there's a lot of good dudes out there, and the brotherhood is important. Um, there are several people I know that I can call on at any time, and they're going to be there for me. So,
Okay.
and likewise, me for them. So
Gotcha.
it is very important. It's very important.
Okay. So the other part of that question was, what does it mean to you by paying your dues back to the business?
Helping out, and it doesn't matter what it is, just help out. Um, share your promotions, advertisements, cut promos for your promotion, help with the ring, help with setup at the event. It just doesn't need to be the ring. Help with the entrance setup, set up chairs, um, help with teardown. I mean, and it's not, those are things that should be expected by anyone, but those are things that should be done by everyone. Um, so and then just, I don't want to like pigeonhole paying your dues to just helping out, but it's doing anything you can to help get the word out on wrestling, help sell tickets, help anything. It's helping, honestly.
Right.
I can't really specify what that means, but help out.
No. Right. I get that. And he was saying that everybody, the wrestler, all the newer wrestlers, the ones that are becoming, they don't understand that as much as the vets do. Because back in the early days, helping up, setting up was a must. It was
Oh yeah,
how you got yourself in the door, and
yeah.
so on and so forth. And yeah, I thought that was an interesting question. So do you think it lacks with the younger kids compared to?
I mean, I I don't know if you can say yes or no to that.
Okay.
I mean, I think that there's always going to be somebody who's gung ho about helping out and doing everything they can, and there's going to be people who aren't. So I don't know if it probably hasn't changed in the past 50 years. There's going to be people like that from here on out. So I know that there was a meme rolling around or a post on Facebook who was like something about paying dues isn't this or that or this and that.
Right.
And it caused a big debate, but I'm just helping out, man. I don't.
Aaron Presley says, "Pick up something heavy."
That's Aaron's answer because Aaron doesn't want to pick up the heavy stuff.
What are you saying about Mr. Aaron Presley?
Aaron's the promoter. He doesn't need to pick up anything heavy. He wants everyone else to do it.
There you go. You had some time in SWE Fury.
I did.
Right?
I did.
Can you talk about that?
What would you like to know?
Is that where you and Jay Alexander? Did you guys have a match?
No, the match with me and Jay Alexander was actually at 360.
Okay.
But SWE, man, I got approached by James Beard, and he told me that there was a promotion starting up, and he asked me, "Hey, would you be interested?" And I didn't really know anything about it.
Okay.
I said, "Yeah." I said, "James is asking me, of course." And he said, "I'll get you whatever rate you're asking for," and and then he ended up getting me more. But that was a fun time. SWE had a lot of potential. They had TV. They were doing stuff on Fight and all kinds of stuff. And I had a really good feud going with Tim Storm. That's another guy that I look up to is Tim Storm. He slipped my mind, but he was a champ there, and we had a program going, and it was really episodic kind of storytelling, and some decisions that were made in the company I didn't agree with, and they changed who was in control of booking and all kinds of stuff. And I just left a sour taste in my mouth. And that's kind of what led to me stepping away from wrestling.
Okay.
And it was a good little run there. And unfortunately, it kind of blew up in their faces. And Yeah, I mean, I have some good and bad memories from SWE.
All right.
So
Awesome. So, like I asked you earlier on, in the message Facebook earlier this afternoon, I seen that you stepped away
Yeah.
from wrestling and you came back here just recently to 360 Pro.
Right.
What happened to bring you back? What was like? Did someone say, "Hey, dude, you can do it"?
Well, I mean, Aaron is kind of always bugging me about coming back the entire time, and I was like, we'll see. Well, and then Jason with Matt War Pro told me about what he planned to do with this company, and he wanted to see if I'd be interested. And he had been talking to me for about a year and a half, close to 2 years, about this project, and he was like, "Hey, we're actually doing this. Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So um, it really started with Matt War Pro, and then Aaron finally got the ball rolling with 360 again. And of course, where 360 is, I'll be. But it was just kind of like the stars kind of aligned with everything, and led me to come back to it. And I missed it, so
Okay.
uh, it's a good outlet for me,
Okay.
and I enjoy it. So yeah, that was really about it. That's what caused me to come back. Seeing something that made sense to me in the grand scheme of things, and knowing that it was going to be quality product.
Right.
So I wasn't going to come back just anywhere. And here we are. Well, over a year later, I'm still doing it.
Yeah, you laced up the boots against another talent that came on the podcast, and Jay Alexander. So, can you talk about that match,
man?
And how he is to work with?
He is so strong. It's unreal. He's not a very tall guy, but he is built like a brick shit house, if pardon the term. But he's super strong. But outside of the ring, super nice guy. I know my girlfriend Jordan. She adores him. She loves Jay Alexander. She's always there to talk to him when we're on the same shows together, and she really enjoys talking to him. But just a nice guy, and he's not been doing it very long, but he's got a very bright future in the wrestling business for sure.
Okay. So you mentioned your girlfriend. So what does your family think about your passion for the sport, and are they worried about your health?
Obviously, they're worried I'm going to get hurt. I think anyone with sense would worry about someone who's doing this kind of stuff. They were definitely against it, getting into it. I think they finally come around on it because they realize I'm not gonna not do it. So they've finally come around. But as far as my biggest supporter, that would be Jordan, my girlfriend, without a doubt. She is there 100% of the way. She's helped me kind of step up my merch game, and she's there to help sell my merch at shows. And she's really the best. She really is, and I'm very thankful for her.
If you could go back at any point in time in history, what would you change about the sport of professional wrestling?
I don't know if I would really change anything. I would have loved to have been born about 25 years earlier.
Okay.
When the territory days, and be able to go through that, because I think I would fit right in. But I don't know if I'd change anything. I mean, the wrestling is pretty hot right now, and I think if you change anything, that might not be the case.
Okay. How important are the fans to you?
Very important. Very important. If we didn't have the fans, we wouldn't have these wrestling shows, and we wouldn't be out there. We wouldn't be able to go out there and perform for them and piss them off or make them happy as hell. So we have to have the fans. That's without question. It's super important.
Okay.
They're the ones that pay us.
Now, do you have any memorable fan interaction stories?
I had a crazy lady wanted to fight me once, and then said that she had somebody that was going to kick my ass or whatever. And I said, okay, where are they at? And then I thought better of that and said, why don't you just leave? And she ended up getting escorted out. There's several, but that
Okay.
one stands out the most. I think she thought that she was going to be able to fight me or have someone fight me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Can
nothing
you
too crazy.
Okay. Can you tell us about your up and coming matches or a dream match that you'd like to have?
Man, up and coming match. I'm not sure who I'm facing just yet, but I do have Matt War Pro coming up on December 1st
Oh,
at Martin House Brewing in Fort Worth, Texas. It's the show is going to be called the Winter Classic. It's
okay.
classic is spelled with a CK at the end. I don't know who I'm facing there, but not long after that, in January, I've got 360 coming up. I will be facing another very large, very athletic man in Michael Schaefer.
Okay.
He is super talented. I got to wrestle him one time in a singles match a couple years back, and I want to do it again. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that one. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the year with Matt War Pro.
Okay.
I've just won the title there again, and I want to see where this year takes me.
Okay.
But as dream opponents, man, I don't know, man. I would have. That's I don't know. I don't know if I have one.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest,
Okay.
I know that, and I know that's a crappy answer, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
Nothing comes to the top of my head right now.
Okay. So we're going to talk about your future goals. If you were not a wrestler, what would you be doing other than professional wrestling?
I'd probably still be working for the prison system here in Texas.
Okay.
I was a correctional officer for about 4.5 years and gave that up to start wrestling. So I'd
Okay.
probably still be doing that and closing in on my 20 years.
Okay. How has wrestling career impacted your life and personal growth?
Uh, there have been some bumps in the road, that's for sure. Like I gave
Okay.
up a lot of stuff to start wrestling, and some stuff regrettably. But I've always tried to be a good person, so
Okay.
I don't think that I think has changed at all. Um, I've made a lot of friends doing this, and friendships that I'll hold dear. So that's what's impacted my life the most.
Okay.
But there have been a lot of bumps in the road for sure.
Okay. So everybody I talk to, wrestlers, they always talk about going overseas. Do you have any dreams or aspirations about going overseas? Where would you want to go?
I would love to go to Japan.
Okay.
That's kind of where I became a fan of watching Bam Bam Bigelow.
Okay.
And guys like Vader and the big guys, Brody, Hansen. That is what I would, more than anything in wrestling. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
Would be to wrestle in Japan.
So would you say that's a 5-year goal?
Man, who knows? I mean, that clock is ticking. I'm not young, so if I can do it in 5 years, that'd be great.
Okay. So we talked about Damian Wayne. And
Yeah.
off the record, we talked about him. So I know you shared something about the almost. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So it was NWA. Damien was the national champion, and I loved that old school national title belt. That's my favorite design. And we were slated to wrestle one another at a promotion called NWA Arklatex. And not long before that show, Damien ended up dropping the title, and wasn't able to make the trip. And we never got that match. And I looked forward to this match for probably 6 months. And it just didn't happen. And I would love to get that one for sure. So if I can coax him out of retirement, that's the match I want.
So, hey, Damian, this is the second week in a row that you were asked or suggested that you come out of retirement. First, it was Tokyo Monster Cahagas. Now it's SuperTex Brent McKenzie. I think, man, what I'm hearing is they want you out of retirement. And what I'm hearing also get praise from both guys. You're one hell of a competitor, and you're a great businessman in the professional wrestling. So
Absolutely.
think about it, Damien. Think about it. When a booker or a company will books you, where can they find you to get a hold of you?
So I'm on Facebook. You can search Brent McKenzie. You'll see my ugly mug. There's my Facebook like page, which is SuperTex Brent McKenzie. Instagram is just Brent McKenzie. Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, it's the SuperTex or at the SuperTex. So you can find me on every one of those different platforms and hit me up.
Okay.
I'm available for bookings.
Awesome. So this just came to my mind. Territory days.
Yes.
Do you think that wrestling today is missing that aspect?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The territory is allowed for people to learn and then go somewhere else, learn there, go somewhere else, learn there. Was able to really able to step their game up in their overall knowledge of the art of professional wrestling. You don't get that now. And then with if you're on a loop, these guys were working 5-6 nights a week, and they were hitting the same towns every week. So you had to do something different every week,
right?
Because those same fans would show up in those same towns.
Right.
So it allowed for you to get more work. It allowed for you to learn how to do different stuff, and there's not enough of that. Right. And then the WWE, they've got the Performance Center, but everyone learns the same way, and I don't know if that's necessarily healthy for the wrestling business. But there's a lot of talent that comes out of the PC, so I'm not knocking that at all. But the territories allowed for people to learn and learn on the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm disrespecting a couple of promotions without talking about them at the end. So 360 Pro Wrestling with Aaron Presley. What do you see for the future for that promotion? Are you excited about this promotion and what's going on?
Well, 360 is, I started there because that was in SF, and then it became NWA 360, and then just 360 Pro. So that's my baby,
Right.
So I look forward to everything that Aaron's got planned coming up. Aaron's really, really smart with promoting and getting the job done. And I just look forward to whatever he's got planned. It doesn't matter what we're doing. I know it's going to be a good time. But what I'm really looking forward to besides that is Matt War Pro.
Yeah.
For this year.
I will have to say that because I see that belt behind you, and I don't want to be disrespectful with that championship. Talk to me about that championship and what does it mean to be the main guy that represents the promotion?
This right here is Sweet Trinity. This is the Trinity River Heritage Championship. And I said it in a video just a couple weeks. There's nothing more important to me in this world than the Trinity River Heritage Championship. And I was the first ever Trinity River Heritage Champion. And I am now the first ever 2-time champion. So it's Matt War Pro has reignited my love for professional wrestling.
Okay.
It really kind of got me out of that I'm just going to stay retired kind of deal. And I think the guys there, Jason and Derek, for really giving me that platform and being able to be the champion of Matt War Pro Wrestling. And we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Matt War Pro Wrestling has just partnered with Martin House Brewing to produce an IPA. It's called Body Slammer. And so now Mount War Pro has its own beer. But these shows, they have a really, really old school feel to them. And it's a mix of old school and new school, and it's different. And I really, really enjoy it. We just had our 1 year anniversary. It was called Till the End. That's the poster you see behind me there. And there's the Cowtown cage fight. It was inside of a cage, and this was like an old school Mid-South wooden frame cage with chicken wire and barbed wire across the top. And so that's what you get when you come to Mount War Pro. Okay. And I look forward to this next year and just seeing how much more Mount War Pro can grow. Okay. There are plans to really start expanding the brand, and I look forward to being a part of it.
Awesome. So one last thing from you, man. First of all, thank you, Aaron Presley at 360 Pro, for hooking us up, this SuperTex Brent McKenzie interview. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Matt War Pro Wrestling, thank you allowing for your champion to show off his belt. SuperTex, in your way, tell everybody what to expect. If there's any opponent out there that you're going to need a warning shot to, give that. And then after you're done doing that, I'll play some exit, but don't go anywhere. Stay in the lobby. Don't go anywhere. And I want to talk to you afterwards.
Yeah. As far as any opponents that I have, I welcome every single one of them. Every single one of them. You can line them up, and I'm going to knock them down, because no one on this planet can take this from me. Not now, not ever. So it doesn't matter if it's 360 Pro Wrestling or if it's Matt War Pro Wrestling or the company out there in Florida. It does not matter. Line them up, and I'm going to knock them down. I will punch them right in the damn mouth.
You have it, man. You just heard from SuperTex Brent McKenzie. Thank you again, 360 Pro, Matt War Pro Wrestling, and Damian Wayne, man. Go back and watch this video. This guy's waiting for maybe that title. I don't know.
Damian, come on. Come try to take it from me. I got a title now, so maybe you want to face me for it.
There you go. Thanks. You got a lot of Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Go to the links below. Follow, subscribe. Love you guys. Stay in the lobby. I'm SuperTex. We'll be right back.
All my dogs, make some noise up in this house. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your head is knocked out. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of destruction, so you know what's going down. And when the drive-by's coming, then you better hit the grind. Cause when your body hits the canvas, then your head is knocked out. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with the devil, because when he's dealing with you, you cannot get on this level. Fight with Adrian Whisper is like a fight with a king. It's like a fight with an army. They got the tanks and everything. He's leaving bruises and stitches, possibly leaving you crippled, cause when he sets up the table and sends you straight through the middle. Take sadistic free, beat that ass with a light bulb. Leave a piece of glass embedded in the back of your skull. Who is in the house? Who is in the house? It's the gangster of the